Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing you guys a Q&A live stream. I'm trying to incorporate you guys in more of my videos. I got a lot of things planned coming for next year. I'm really excited. January is going to be a pretty big month for next year. I'm going to have the podcast finally is going to be coming out, and I should have the Twitch channel set up by then. And you guys, don't get used to this background for too long. I'm going to get a green screen coming in January, so honestly, the production, everything is going to be completely different. It's going to be lit. But anyway, you guys, you know what? I know no one's doing anything on a Saturday night, and I thought, why not release a Q&A live stream? So I'm just going to go straight into things. I'm actually going to look at some of the questions you guys have put in now, but a quick reminder, if you want your question answered straight away and prioritized, send me a super chat. It doesn't have to be big. Honestly, it takes you like a few seconds to do it. I've sent a few super chats out before. There's this YouTuber called Roberto Blake, and you know, he's been a big help in really helping me like improve on my channel and growing it. So it takes like a few seconds to do. If you want your question prioritized, then do that. But anyway, you guys, I don't know why I'm stuttering. I'm gonna go straight into the live stream and answer the first question. Let me turn my phone off. The first question. Alright, what should I answer? Okay, Ian, fuck you, Nini, talking about young players like they are Messi. Yeah, okay. Great start so far. Okay. Guy Balogun, don't be stupid, Conte out. Who would you replace him with? Brendan Rodgers? I don't know if that's a question to me. Okay. Not a great start so far. Okay, CFC. If Man United get Alexandra over us, I swear I will. Oops, okay. Not another one that's not good. You guys, send the questions in then. Come on. Luke Bashian, do you want Conte out? Getting straight into things with a very controversial question. Now, I need to let you guys know straight away. I'm not going to lie. I used to be one of those fans where I always used to go for the manager first. I think Mourinho definitely indoctrinated me. I couldn't see anything wrong that he did, but I think especially after he left in his second spell, and also with, you know, other managerial successes like, you know, when Di Matteo won the Champions League and then he got sacked, I kind of just don't care about Chelsea managers really. I've kind of just seen them as guys that just come here to do a job because I care about the club more. For example, if the manager left, if all of our players left and let's say they went to Spurs, or let's say we had to swap our squad with Burnley's squad and Burnley players became Chelsea players, I don't care because I just support Chelsea. That's my club. So in a way, I don't really care if Conte did leave. He's just a guy who's here to do his job, and all I care about is if he does it and performs very well. And I think with Conte, you know, he's been decent, but I'll just be honest, I think in my personal opinion, I don't know if he's a guy that can take us to the next level. And you guys know my opinions. You know, I was around when, you know, I was young, when we were very successful like 10 years ago. But we were so dominant. Other teams in the league would defend against us. We were amazing in Europe, even though we were very unlucky to not have won a Champions League so early. You know, that was, you know, the big players we had at the club. The football we were played was dominant. I'm not saying it was necessarily like, you know, your tiki-taka style. But, you know, I went to the matches when I was young, and you got that sense of you were always going to win the game. There was that famous game I won't forget against West Ham. We were down to 10 men, like, in the first 10 minutes. And I remember not worrying at all. We ended up beating West Ham 4-1. And, I mean, that just really shows you the level of the squad, the level of the team. And sometimes I think, is Conte necessarily the manager that can take us to that level? The only reason why I think that is because I'm looking at football now. Obviously, football adapts and changes every 5 years, in my opinion. And I think the style of manager that Conte and Mourinho are, they're not, I mean, they're kind of dying out in a way. They're not as successful anymore because I think if you're overly pragmatic, it comes back to haunt you eventually. And I kind of think, you know, with us recently, there was that ridiculous stat that came out that we had like 103 shots against 5, you know, Atletico, Swansea, you know, and 3 other teams, only scoring 3 goals, and one was an own goal, one was a free kick, and it's, you know, that's not good enough. And you know, you guys definitely know my thoughts and opinions on this safety first football. I feel that it does come back to haunt the team eventually. This emphasis on balance is too strong. I think the Everton game really summed it up. And I kept stressing this point in my live stream. Why do we care about so many teams that aren't playing with balance against us? Now, if you're parking the bus with 10 men in your own box, if you're not making any effort to support Calvert-Lewin up front when it comes to counter-attacks, then you're not playing with balance. You're just playing to defend. And I think when you're playing against teams that just go to a really extreme level, you have to kind of be a bit extreme yourself in terms of how you beat them. You can't keep this balance, you know. I was really thinking that for Hazard, he was the main creative influence, but I kept stressing too that all the guys in the front three, they just got too much to do. They constantly have two guys on them. They constantly have to create for the team, and there's too much unnecessary responsibility. I felt even if you had one guy in Fabregas playing beside Kante, with Fabregas pushing up to support the front three, that's a not front four, but that's 4 players we have working in tandem. That would be much better, especially when Fabregas does provide those vertical passes. And you know, this is my type of criticism with Conte. I know the argument is that the board didn't support him, etc., etc. You know, people are right to a degree. I think if we've got certain targets like an Alexandro, I think it would definitely make Conte's life a bit easier. But, you know, breaking it down, it wasn't as deep as that. But I still think that the manager still has the job to do. I mean, the games where we haven't got results, you know, the teams where we haven't beaten Palace, Burnley, you know, not beating Everton, not beating West Ham, that hasn't come down to not getting those big players, because we're playing against bottom half teams who are performing very poorly in the league, and they've been getting results against us. And why are they getting results? Because they're playing that defensive park the bus football. And you guys that were here from last season, who used to watch all my live streams and my match reviews, you would know that I kept saying that for this season it was going to be even harder, because teams know to stop us you have to defend deep and park the bus in the middle. And we're seeing that, and you know, we're struggling to break them down. We're struggling to get goals, and you know, it's not looking too great at this moment in time. But the January window's here, who knows what's going to happen. But Luke, I hope I answered your question. I went in as much detail as I could. I let you know my stance. I didn't pussyfoot around things, so I hope you're happy with that. Moving on to the next question now. Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna, if it's real talk, if you're gonna send me something stupid, don't waste your time, because I'm not even gonna bother read it, you understand? So don't embarrass yourself, like, honestly. Okay, Ninja Man. Okay. What's another question? I thought there'd be more, to be honest. Okay, Spasmoid Slayer. Do you think Conte would play better football if he got his targets? Now, that's another good question. And, you know what? I've actually been thinking a lot about this. Now, in my opinion, I did stress, especially before the transfer window started, that I felt that we did need to sign certain players that were upgrades to positions we have in the team. I think left wing back is one. I think that Alexandro is an upgrade in that position, because he has the ability to single-handedly bomb forward, and he doesn't need, let's say, an Eden Hazard to push out wide to the left or drop deeper to help him get up. Alexandro has that tenacity, kind of like a Victor Moses, where Victor Moses can beat a man himself, and that's what's really helped Pedro, especially this past 18 months, because Pedro knows that he doesn't have to support Moses. He can make those runs in behind. He can play closer to goal. I think if the team had Sandro, then I think the front three wouldn't have to drop as deep. I think that we get better delivery in the box, because I think he's probably the best crosser in the world. I mean, I know his form is pretty bad so far, but I mean, last season, the best crosser in the world by far. And I think there's that tenacity and drive to really beat a man. You know, I think Alonso doesn't have that one-on-one capability to beat someone. I think with Sandro, it's just better at every single attribute. And also, you can afford to maybe be a bit more offensive. And again, this is hypothetical, because we don't, you know, it's just how I can imagine it to be. Sandro is comfortable enough to defend by himself. He doesn't necessarily need as much support. He's got that tenacity in the tackle that I think top fullbacks have. So I think if he was in the team, maybe that would allow Conte to be a bit more expressive. But then I'm thinking, when it comes to balance, you know, if you're still going to use, let's say, a Bakayoko and Kante, who effectively play as Kante and Matic from last season, you don't get that creativity, you don't get those vertical passes from the midfield. So I think there's still that thing as well. And also I think, how would Conte actually use these wing backs? Would they be used like a Spurs wing backs, where Spurs wing backs touch the ball a lot and our wing backs don't touch the ball as much? Like last season I was comparing Victor Moses and Kyle Walker, and Kyle Walker touched the ball 500 more times. They played the exact amount of minutes, the same amount of games. Walker touched the ball 500 more times. So that really lets you know the emphasis on obviously who's using their width better. And I think if we had Alex Sandro, would Conte adapt the team in a way to get the best out of the players? That's the hard thing. That is hard to really tell, because, you know, I'm trying to think really detailed. It's not just about having great players. It's up to the manager to maybe adapt the system a bit to give them a bit more freedom. But I definitely think that having better players, it does help you in certain moments in the game. Let's say that one cross, you're more likely that Sandro will put in that world-class cross compared to Alonso. You know, when it comes to beating a man on the left, whipping across, you know that Sandro 9 times out of 10 is going to do that compared to Marcos Alonso. So I definitely think if he was a target, I think there'd be an improvement. I think that but again, this is a long question, because if you really look at the other targets, I was actually talking about this on Twitter. All the targets, I think the big ones Conte wanted were Sandro, Van Dijk. You guys got to help me remind me some of the other targets. Van Dijk, you know, your Oxlade-Chamberlains, your Barkleys, your you know, Mendy, Kyle Walker was another one. And the reality was, and Riyad Mahrez, the reality was though, the only player I personally feel that the board really messed up on, that was Riyad Mahrez. Because Riyad Mahrez, again, we went in for him way too late. And then, second of all, we're negotiating too low. If you're going to go in for a player that late, you just have to play the money up front. You can't be negotiating 10 million off, 5 million off. It's a waste of everyone's time. That's the only player I'd really criticise the board for. If you look at your Mendy's and your Kyle Walkers, your Nainggolan's, they didn't want to come to us. They prefer to go to other teams. Van Dijk, he got snakes. Southampton didn't sell him to anyone. So we can't really get angry about that. Alex Sandro, as I keep telling you guys, obviously the Juventus board don't like Conte. So that was one thing we had going against us. That's what made negotiations even harder. Of course, they kept raising the price up. And another thing too was they didn't get a replacement in time. So if they don't like Conte and they don't have a replacement, Sandro's not going to come. Lukaku, I actually found out the real reason why Lukaku didn't come and why it was taking so long. And actually, it's not anyone's fault to do with the board. I was actually told it's that obviously we know that Raiola is Lukaku's agent, and also he's Pogba's agent and Mourinho's agent. Now, he wasn't, obviously they're friends too. Mourinho leaving Chelsea, Raiola wasn't necessarily happy with Mourinho leaving, so he had his own interest of moving his client, who he's already worked with, to Manchester United. So that was one of the reasons why negotiations were so long and stale with Raiola, because he was being very difficult. And he really wanted his client to move to Manchester United, and that's how the deal really came through. So, again, that's nothing to do with Chelsea, really, because even then, even if Raiola went through smooth sailing, the agent fees he wants, the money on top of that, it was really putting the club off. But I think if Mahrez came, Alex Sandro came, I think they'd definitely be much better. But again, if you're talking about Conte targets like your Ross Barkleys and your Oxlade-Chamberlains and your Candrevas and your Llorentes, and forget that. What's the next question? Ooh. You guys, like I said, if you want me to answer your question urgently, because I'm not going to read through every single one of them, send me a super chat. It can be £1, 50p, it could be whatever. If you want your question answered, that's what you've got to do. What's another one? Okay, Dorman Richards. How will Sandro improve Eden Hazard? As I said earlier too, with obviously, when you look at the team now, sometimes Hazard does have to drop deeper to have Alonso bombing forward. But with Alex Sandro, you don't have to do that. He can bomb forward at will. And if you think about how Moses plays on the right-hand side, you're getting someone on the left that plays identically. Not saying in terms of the same quality, but in terms of what they offer in the final third and what they bring. And I think that when you've got two guys on either flank that are really comfortable in the final third, good decision making in the final third, can beat a man at will and can defend by themselves, then I think that that's only going to help the front three, because then they don't have to drop as deep to help support the wing backs, and they can focus on making runs in behind, knowing that they're going to get good quality from, you know, from Alexandro. Okay, what's another question? Monigerian 17, is it true Hazard going to United? No, it's not true. that's it. Okay, Fulcane, what good would it do to change the coach if the club has zero ambition? Now, that is a bit of a tricky one to answer, really. Because, of course, it's a bit cynical. Of course, after today, a lot of us are still annoyed that we didn't get the result against a really poor Everton team. But I don't know. The ball not having ambition, I'm not too sure that's necessarily the case. I think what we're having is that, especially last season, there were too many cooks in the kitchen. So that didn't help, on top of, you know, transfer negotiations as well. You know, Conte has his targets. Emenalo was trying to be the mediator between everyone, really. And he had to continue doing the job that he's paid to do. And then Marina has her targets. And I've been told that she has some of her own team in regards to looking at transfer targets as well. So it was very difficult in terms of really settling down on who the main targets are to get. Now, if you guys realise, in the summer, we were making a lot of offers for a lot of players. It hasn't been like previous windows where we knew, okay, we're going to get this guy. If he doesn't come, this is plan B. You know, we're going for this player. Oh, crap, he can't come. He's not coming. We're going to negotiate for that player at the same time. There wasn't any structure, really. And I think the Chelsea board definitely know that that can't happen again. I think Emenalo didn't want to be part of that again. That was why he left and went to Monaco. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can release this Conte video out tomorrow. The only hint I'm gonna give you is it's in regards to Conte and new contracts. So that's what I'm gonna tell you about. So definitely stay tuned tomorrow. I'm gonna see if I can actually bring it out. It's gonna be a hectic day tomorrow. But definitely stay tuned for that. But no, I think the club, I think they'll get it right for next season. I think they have to. I think with Marina especially, because she gets a lot of power from Roman. You know, obviously they're very close, very tight. Marina's a very popular figure at the club with the players, people behind the scenes with the board. The only issues that Conte and Marina have on regards to, obviously, power. You know, Conte would like to have more control and say over things. I don't think he should. I mean, he's only been here for 2 minutes. And Marina's job is to obviously be in control of the finances at the club. She's basically like Roman's right-hand woman in a way. And it's just like, you know, what she's hoping to do is, obviously, she's going to outsource the director of football role. There isn't going to be a traditional director of football as there was with Emenalo when he first came. And she's hoping that when the next director of football comes, it's literally going to be in terms of player scouting for the loan army. It seems like Neil Bath will be in charge of sending players on loan to, for the loan army. And she wants to have more say and control. And she thinks that if she gets everything right, then I think Roman will give her even more control of the club. Because you guys got to realise, Roman hasn't been here much this season. He hasn't been to many games. Obviously, he's got his businesses and billionaire things to do. So it's in Marina's best interest to make sure that she gets everything running smoothly for this January and for the summer. Because if she does, I've been told she feels that, you know, she will have more control of the club then. Okay, moving on to another question. Like I said, you guys, if you want me to answer something urgently, that's what the super chat button is, mate. And, okay. What question am I going to answer next? Every Monday, why aren't Chelsea brave in their manager selections instead of going to short-term pragmatic managers? Now, that's a very good question. Now, before Conte came, it was Sampaoli and Conte in the running for the job at Chelsea. And the excuse that was given for Sampaoli was that he couldn't speak English. Now, that seems a bit weird because Conte couldn't speak English at the time either. Conte got an English instructor, and you know, credit to the guy, respect to him. I heard he's been banging out the English courses, and that's why in in only a few months he was able to speak English and conduct a press conference without needing a translator, which is really impressive. And it shows you his work rate. You know that Conte is always talking about work, 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 work. That's because he believes that. He was that type of player as well. So I'm just credit to him. People like to think that just because I critique the manager's tactical decisions, I dislike the guy or I hate him, but no one's ever heard me insult him. I say good things about him when I need to. You know what I mean? People need to like calm down a bit with that. But I think if anything, that was a turning point, because if Chelsea went for a Sampaio, I know no one saw Sevilla last season under him, but I thought they were very, very, very impressive. I watched a few of their games. I watched all their big games against, Atletico, Barca, Madrid, and they outplayed all of them. And it's just like, you look at a team of Sevilla's stature, with their transfer budget, the type of players they can bring in, constantly selling 5 or 6 of their best players every season and bringing in new players. To do what he did is very impressive. That budget he has, the competition in front of him, and to outplay a lot of these teams, I mean, it is really impressive. And sometimes I think, imagine if these managers had teams of the stature that they needed to go to the next level, because sometimes that's what you need. And I don't know, I look at my club and I just feel we got all the ingredients really to have something really special. I mean, we've got one of the best defences in Europe. There's no one can deny that. No one can tell me that our defensive unit isn't one of the best. We got N'Golo Kante. He'd walk into any team in the world. We've got Eden Hazard, top 3 best players in the world. Most times that's all you need, because remember, there's only 10 guys, outfield players really on the pitch, and we've got 5, 6 of these positions sorted perfectly. So we don't really need too much in terms of investment really to really go to the next level. But I do think that if Chelsea want to get to that next level, I think they have to start thinking outside the box. I think, when Mourinho and Conte came, that was when that was at the start when she was starting to get more influence at the club. Obviously, Roman was trusting her and her opinions, because they had a working relationship for many, many, many years before Chelsea as well. She was working at his oil company, I think I read that somewhere. And I think at the time, she was the one that actually vouched to bring in Jose Mourinho, obviously negotiated for him to come. And obviously, that's where the rumours of Roman buying him that £2 million Bugatti as like a, welcome home present came from as well. And I think when she got that deal sorted, obviously, she got a lot of brownie points behind the scenes at the club. I think she was influential as well, bringing in Antonio Conte. And I think that this is my thing. I think sometimes these people behind the scenes at the club, they aren't necessarily football people, where they're very intelligent business people, and it's natural for you to go for the result guys. The guys that have won previous things, done things throughout Europe. So logically, I'm not going to criticise them for going for a Conte or a Mourinho, because they've got the track record, they've got the previous history. But I kind of think with Chelsea, with the direction that we were currently going on, with all those young, exciting players, we saw like Salahs, De Bruyne's, Hazards, Moses's, all of those guys, to bring in managers that really contradict that style and what we were originally creating didn't help anyone. And in a way, it sums up Chelsea in terms of constantly being in this in this strut where it's like, we need years to really improve, and it's like we have these seasons where we don't do anything for a year or two. It's not consistent enough. And I think, even though these, I guess the thing, we go for these result managers because it brings in that short-term success that we need. So yeah, we will win a league trophy in the next year or two with these types of managers, but long-term, where's the real benefit? I think we've only seen that once under Jose Mourinho, and then his 3rd season, things kind of fell down. Again with Conte, we're already starting to see in this 2nd spell that, I think teams have found out how to play against us. We haven't got, I think, the 2 upgrade players we needed in the team. That's not helping Conte, but most of all, I think he's not really adapting he's not really making any brave tactical decisions or adapting his style when he needs to. A lot of us are starting to realise, do we need to be using 3 at the back against your Evertons and your West Hams? No. Especially when they've got no counter-attacking threat. I don't think it takes a genius to see that. I don't think it's a risk for a manager to make that decision. This is what Conte's got to do. But again, until we start thinking about long-term success and having a structured plan for that, we're going to keep going for short-term managers because, you know, there's people behind the scenes that are obviously trying to work their way up, and getting these result managers obviously gives them the brownie points they need to really get higher positions behind the scenes at the club. And I think that's what Marina's done to make a name for herself, and obviously it looks like it's working for her. Okay. Okay, what's another one? I've got a lot of questions. Like I said, you guys, if you want me to answer it like straight away, you can send a super chat. Okay, the Oracle. Nini, is Laurent Blanc a good option? Now, with Laurent Blanc, I think he is. I think the football he brought to Paris Saint-Germain was very attractive. You know, that 4-3-3, which basically turned into a 3-4-3 because Thiago Motta would drop deep, basically making a back three with him, Silva, David Luiz. You'd have Aurier, Maxwell bombing forwards. You had Lucas Moura and Di Maria. They'd collect the ball out wide, but they'd make runs inside. And then obviously you'd have Ibra who'd drop deeper and then let those guys run in front of them. Then you've got Verratti linking up the play, dictating things. Matuidi breaking up the play and making those forward runs. And I think there was a very, very good balance. I think Laurent Blanc's weakness is that he can't really manage the egos. There were a lot of egos at Paris Saint-Germain. At Chelsea, though, do we really have any egos? I don't necessarily think we do. Maybe with the type of person or player we have, it could really gel with Laurent Blanc. But in terms of his footballing style, I can't really criticise him much, really. I think they play a very nice style of football. And this is the type of things I talk about I like us to see because, you know, you've got to realise when a player collects the ball from a certain position and makes a run infield, you're making space for yourself. You know, you're drawing opposition defences away from you. That fluid style really unsettles teams. And I think, especially with this team, is very rigid, you know. Instead of, let's say, Hazard or Willian collecting the ball out wide, having like a Morata dropping deep so they can make runs in behind, and then our wing-backs making overlapping runs, Hazard and Willian are just in the middle. But when they're just in the middle, this is why teams decide to then park the bus in the middle, because there aren't any runs being made to really stretch them. And it's like the safest way to play against us. I don't know, if Laurent Blanc and that style, I really think it could suit a lot of the players at the club. I look at someone like Rabiot. When I look at the players like your Rabiots, your Milinkovic, Savic's and whatever, I see Ruben Loftus-Cheek in the same calibre. And look at the player that Rabiot is becoming now. He's in the French national team. I think he'll probably go in the World Cup over Bakayoko. It looks like Bakayoko won't be getting into the World Cup squad. I think that Ruben Loftus-Cheek, that could be the manager that could really help unlock him and give him that proper box-to-box role in midfield. I think it'd be an interesting decision, and I think, you know, good football, it just depends on how he manages the squad. And, you know, sometimes some of his tactical decisions in big games can be off, but again, it is harsh because I'm only talking about in the Champions League. And I think if I'm only critiquing the manager's decisions in the Champions League, I think it's letting you know the kind of high level that he's at. Okay, what's another question? Okay, let me find one. Sarri is worse than Conte with youth. Yes, he is the Oracle. Okay. Xavier Paisley, Nini. Who's someone that you think we should bring back in January from the loan army? I don't really think we can bring back anyone from the loan army. Now, people were talking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. That was only going to be the case if Palace had never used him throughout the season. Then we have the option to bring him back. But that's standard for every player that goes out on loan. So really, there is no one in the loan army that could necessarily come back. Okay, Fulcane, we need to get Malcolm. You know what? I've been thinking for a very long time. I want to see someone on the right that has a natural left foot. Now, again, I used to see Robin when I was young. The stuff he used to do with the ball, you know, it was so easy for him to glide past people. I still can't think who's a better dribbler between Robin back then and Eden Hazard now. That was how amazing Arjen Robben was. I look at Mohamed Salah. It's not that he necessarily is as clean a dribbler as Robben or Hazard, but it's the runs he makes inside the box. You know, he's very direct. The guy's got 22 goals so far. I mean, it looks like he'll be getting past 30 goals for the season. You can see that's the type of signing that can improve the team, because we're getting something that we don't have. You know, that direct type of goal effort. And I look at Malcolm from Bordeaux, and I'm seeing that. And, you know, congratulations to the kid too. Obviously, he was linked with a lot of big clubs when he was back in Brazil and he was a teenager. But he's smart, you know. I think if you're under 21 and you want to go to a big club, you're pretty stupid to be doing that, because you're not going to play. Go to the clubs that are going to play you week in, week out, where you can, let's say you play a bad game or two, you'll still be in the team, you can develop, you can improve on what you're good at, improve on what you're not good at. And I see Malcolm doing that. I mean, he's got a goal threat now, an unbelievable long shot, and you can see that he'll be a very top-class player. I wouldn't be surprised to see him being one of the top-class right wingers in the future. I think maybe that's a signing that Chelsea could look at for the future. It seems pretty likely that we're not going to use our youth players at all. For some reason, we like to develop them, and then it's just like, that's it, we don't care afterwards. We don't care about even maximising the amount of money we could get for them. It's all very short-sighted, but I think Malcolm's a guy for the future that could add something. Okay. The Cog. Do you think the only way to beat Man City is to play 4-3-3? You know what? This is one thing that we got to realise. It doesn't matter about what formation you use to beat someone. It's a system in which you use that formation to win. I mean, for example, playing 4-3-3, you could play that 5-6 different ways. 4-2-3-1, that's another system you can use in so many different ways. 3-4-3, I mean, look at the different ways in which Spurs use it and how we use it. So don't see formation as tactics. That's just the positions you want your players to be in. You know, really your question should have been, what type of system could we use to beat Man City? Okay, Nash. Nash. You guys, I don't know if you remember Nash, especially last year around the same time. He was with me and Andy. He was in a few live streams with us. It's good to see him back. It's been a long time. Nini has changed how I look at managers at Chelsea too. I'm not attached anymore. I do appreciate Conte though. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I appreciate what Conte's done by winning us that trophy, but you guys, we shouldn't, you know, at the end of the day, it's a job he's fulfilling. Me personally, I don't see why we care and have so much affiliation to a manager, because let's say in 5 years time we'll probably have 2 different managers. Conte will just be in the history books. We're not going to care as much, because, you know, the nature of football is what's going to happen now or happen tomorrow. That's all people really care about. Okay, what's another question? Alright. Why are all the managers being mentioned Italian? There are other good managers in other leagues. We need someone who's okay. That's not a question. You know what? To make things easier for me, if you're going to ask me a question, put an @ sign. You know, the email @ put the @ sign before a question so I can tell if someone's sending me a question, because too many people are just talking within themselves. Okay, yep, answer that one. What's another question? Okay, Ninja Man. What do you think about appointing a coach from the youth system and development of an identity and style of football? I think that's a very impressive question. Xavier Pace, I'll answer your question afterwards. But Ninja Man, yeah, that's a good question. And you know what? I think that's a fantastic idea. And this is what I keep saying about thinking outside the box now. I think too often in the Premier League, because there's so much money involved, it's kind of as if, you know, there's no risk in the Premier League. Money is just the biggest factor. It's the biggest goal. People they want their success guaranteed in the safest way possible. I think this is why you see so many boring tactical systems in the Premier League. You don't see too many innovations. I think Conte did bring an innovation. I think Pep this season has brought an innovation on a different level. But with the other teams in the league, it is all pretty standard. And I think this is the major reason why, until this season, most clubs before were doing very poorly in the Premier League. But honestly, I think this is the future. This is the way to go. You look at Barcelona, Real Madrid over the past decade. Real Madrid have won 2 Champions Leagues in 2 years, and it was no surprise really because Zidane was the B team manager who they promoted from within. Pep Guardiola, I mean, most of Barcelona managers the past 10, 15 years have been promoted from their youth team. That was Pep, Villanova, Luis Enrique. I think Frank Rijkaard was another one as well. And you know what? It's actually no surprise to me that the guys that get promoted from B teams are the ones that feel most confident in using young players. I mean, is it a surprise that Zidane was so confident to be using your Asensios and your who's the winger, Vasquez's and all those types of players in the team over a James, for example? No, I don't think that's the case. And you know, I mean, you look at Germany now. How many of their managers come from the youth systems? How many of them have young managers under 40, under 35 years old? And the Premier League is just completely different. The Premier League has always been very outdated, not stylistically, just philosophy-wise, mentality-wise. I think there's just too much money in this league, and too many owners of clubs just want to get. They don't care about winning trophies anymore. It's just about getting as high up the league as you can to earn as much money as possible. But I do think that I would like to see Chelsea do that, because I think the only way for our youth to really have a proper look in is by adapting a system and style in the first team that suits them. Because here's the thing, when our youth do win a lot of finals, but it's how they win them. And I think too often, I think people never care about the context of stuff in football. You know, for example, if you say a player's bad, it's easy to say he's bad, but you know, what's the context behind why he's bad? Is he injured? Is it the system? Is he having personal issues outside of the club? That's the type of things that no one cares. And that's one thing I always like to constantly look at, is the context in which you obviously, you know, in which things work. And I think that when you look at our youth dominance, the reason why I call it dominance is because, you know, for example, Man City last year in the FA Youth Cup, we beat them. I was at the game. I think we beat them 5-0, 5-1 in the second leg. Completely destroyed them. Hudson-Odoi scored. Mason Mount was unbelievable. Castillo was bombing forward. Dominated them physically, technically, tactically. But we look at these Man City players, the ones getting hyped. You know, your Fodens. Some of their youth players are getting chances in the Carabao Cup. Obviously, Sancho left and he's gone to Borussia Dortmund. And you can see that even though, you know, we've thrashed Man City again in another final for the 3rd time consecutively, it's like some of their players have better pathways into first team football. Even some of the players out on the loan army, that guy Mafio who's playing for Almeria in Spain, he's been looking very impressive. And we don't have that same structure for our young players. And I think that's what's really letting them down. I think with a Conte, it's basically impossible for anyone really from the youth team to get in. I think Ampadu is lucky he gets in. He's not even the best defender at the club. I'd say Jake Clark-Salter is better than him, and Trevor Chalobah. But obviously, I just think it's his tenacity in the tackle. He's tall and he's aggressive. That's the attributes that Conte likes. Unfortunately, we don't create those types of players at the club. I think sometimes maybe we focus too much on making these young players as best as they can be. You might be thinking, what you're talking about, but what I'm trying to say is, sometimes I think that they're unnecessarily better than they have to be for their age. Because it's kind of like, imagine you're, you know, graduating from Harvard and then you're applying for a job at McDonald's. Everything you've learned over the years, every skill you've been practicing on and working, if let's say you're playing for a team that just crosses the ball in and floods men forward or play very physical, then what's that? How are you really helping that type of team? And let's say your style is all about playing 1-2 passes and knowing when to press as a unit and fulfilling your role when you're here and there, and then you're going to teams that, let's say, they sit back and park the bus. What could you really offer to that team? What can you really do? I think this is why so many players like your Masundas and Boga especially have struggled on loan. It doesn't help any of these guys too that most times managers are getting sacked, and it's a cliche in football, but the first time manager's sacked, then the new one comes in, they don't look at the loan players because it's like not their responsibility, they don't care, they never brought them there in the first place. And this is the issues we're having. I just feel that with what we're creating at Chelsea, now to me it'd be completely different if, let's say, you know, we just won one youth cup and we won on penalties, very lucky, and then we've looked okay in competitions but haven't won anything. But when you're winning everything, when you're absolutely dominating and thrashing your closest rivals, because Man City is supposed to be the best youth team up to measure with us, and you're destroying them by 5-0, winning 7-2 on aggregate and stuff like that. What can we really say about them not being good enough? How can we really say they don't deserve a chance to be tested at this level? That's what I find baffling. I think if there was a system where an academy manager takes over, because of course it's the style of football they're playing that excels them on top of their natural ability. That's what really complements them. This is why they're able to win 4-0, 5-0 and beat all the closest rivals, you know, near to them. I think if we did have a B team manager coming up, like let's say a Jody Morris or what's his name, Edwards, or I don't know, even a Neil Bath or whatever, who wanted to get promoted up to the first team, I think if the club were brave and did that, and let's say they said, well, we want to see progress in the next 2 years, then I think in that, you know, at the end of the 2 years, we could have a team that could challenge a Man City, because they'd be playing in a footballing philosophy that really a lot of them are suited to. We've got players in the team that are suited to that style already, in your Hazards and your Kantes, for example. I just think you're getting the best of both worlds. You're having a path for the young players to play in. The best ones will get an opportunity. I think that's the type of bravery I like to see, because again, we say it sounds crazy, but then Barcelona, Madrid are bigger clubs than us, and they're better clubs than us. They've got more pressure on them, you know, on top of the expectation of fans. The journalists ridiculously hound both clubs. Even if they win a game and they perform badly, they'll get criticised for the whole week. There's a lot more pressure on those clubs than we actually realise in this country. Yet they've still used how many youth players from their academy over the past 15 years than we have, you know? So if they can afford to do that, if I can see other clubs doing that type of stuff, I don't see why it's no excuse for us to do that, especially when we've got the results that these guys are some of the best youngsters in the world. So I don't know. That's a long ass question answer, I know, but hopefully I answered that. Okay, what's the next one? I said I was going to answer Xavier's question. And what did he ask? What did he ask? I can't remember. Okay, I can't find it. Sorry, man. GC52. If Blanc was a good manager, why hasn't he managed? Okay, why did he at me that? Jay, do you think we need to spend big and get class around Hazard? You know what? I think we have to spend smart. And sometimes spending smart means spending big. But spending smart means spending smart on actual key players you need. Not even though I like Drinkwater, not spending nearly 35 million on him, not spending 40 million on Baka, not sending Zuma on loan to sign Rudiger for 35 million for him to sit on the bench most times. That's what I mean, because they're not even upgrades to the players that have left. And it's like that money could have been used for maybe buying 2 big players instead of buying, you know, 3, 4 ones that don't really improve the team. You know, it adds numbers to the squad, but it doesn't improve the first team. And, you know, the past 2 seasons it's kind of been like that in a way. You know, this is what I mean. I am positive for the future. It seems that with less cooks in the kitchen now, there could be an easier focus on actually picking the transfer targets we actually need and want to bring in. So, if that is the case, I'm sure the club are working on targets. I think Alexandra, the amount of work the club put in last summer, I can't imagine that they just give up. I'm sure negotiations must be easier to take place now that a lot of the hard work's been done already. So I'm positive to see what's going to happen with that. And I think if we can get, I think just 1 or 2, just 2 big players for the first team, that's going to obviously benefit your likes of your Courtois, your Hazards, your Kantes, yeah, your big players. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case for next season. Okay, I'm going to answer a few more, then I'm going to keep it moving afterwards. What's another question to ask? Nick Coronas at Blue Lions TV. What do you think of Riyad Mahrez, and do you think he would take some pressure off of Hazard? I definitely think he would, because, you know, with Mahrez, he's a goal threat. He can link up the play. He can play people in on the counter-attack. He's able at beating a man or 2. He can collect the ball in tight areas. I think he really can complement the team quite a lot. And I think that could take away some of that creative burden from Eden Hazard, where you know, a lot of times he has that burden because our players will just pass to him more often than passing to a Willian or a Pedro. I think that could definitely be the case, especially because Mahrez will cut inside quickly and take a shot compared to like a Willian or a Pedro. So I think that could definitely be the case. But this is what I mean. Looking at how we're playing now, you know, this emphasis on balance and this rigid style, there's not really any movement in the final third areas, unless the team's giving us space. I think that the tactics definitely need to be adapted. They need to be changed a bit because, you know, let's say we did sign a Mahrez and he's playing in the exact same system. What real benefit would he get from that? Maybe he could just potentially be another guy that's getting double marked and finding it hard to break through someone. When I look at other big teams, you know, when you look at like a Man City, how many people do they put inside the box to go on at the end of a cross? When you look at your Madrids, your Barças, all those types of teams, I mean, Barca are unbeaten. I mean, I'm going to watch El Clasico afterwards. I heard what the score was, so I'm not going to ruin it in case of people haven't seen it. But, you know, it's the type of level that we've got to reach and get to. I definitely think two big upgrade players on the left wing, no, for left wing back and on the right wing. And if we can change the style to be a bit more free-flowing and a bit more fluid, I think that's going to help everyone, especially Eden Hazard. Okay. RJ Gaming, what's he saying? Where is he? Who do you think are the best players leave next season if we don't achieve the goals this season? And I'm sure the goals this season are to get into the Champions League and maybe get a trophy. So I don't think the club are going to be too... let's say Man City were to hypothetically go unbeaten this season and completely dominate. I don't think Chelsea... We're not the same Chelsea of, like, you know, 8 years ago. We're not going to sack a manager because of that. So I don't think it'll be too bad, to be honest. The Oracle, Nini, is Tuchel the man to finally integrate our talented youth into the first team? Now, with Thomas Tuchel, I'm not too sure about him, if I've got to be honest. I know he does use some... He does definitely incorporate his youth. But, I don't know, I kind of think maybe his tactical decision-making. Now, a lot of times against Bayern Munich, I felt that they didn't do as great at times. That's like really their only real proper test in Germany. But even then, you know, it is Dortmund. They don't have the same type of defence that we do, or the same midfield that we do as well. Honestly, I'm not going to say anything about Tuchel because I don't know him too well. I'm just being honest. I don't really know his style too well, and I don't want to just jump on the bandwagon pretending that I know about someone that I don't. So, but I'll definitely be doing research into him to really try and find out what type of manager he is, and, you know, how he plays and how he gets his teams working, you know. Okay. Floki, Ron, at Nini, I think we need more creativity in midfield, a quality left back and a good striker, someone like Aubameyang. What player do you think we need? Now, my number one pick is Alexandra. I think all of you guys know that. My second pick, I want to see someone from the right that can cut inside. I mean, I love to see Sanchez. I'd take him for, you know, I mean, Sanchez, he's 29, he can play till he's 32 at a high level easily. I would take him. If not, I would definitely look at Riyad Mahrez. I would definitely look at Malcolm as well. There's a few exciting players. There's this guy called Neres for Ajax. I mean, he's looking pretty exciting. I mean, again, we can be smart. If I found out, for example, Hulk would be available in January until the end of the season, I'd take Hulk. I think he's a very good, underrated player. Again, it depends on who's going to be really available in the market, and we see what happens. Of course, in regards to players like Thomas Lamar's, that money isn't worth it for him. I'm sorry. This is what I mean. This is what annoys you about the league, the Premier League and the club, for example. He needs at least another 2 years before we can start looking at him for 80 million. For the prices that Monaco want for him, no, it's not the case. The reason why Lamar looks even better is because of the support around him. I mean, he's got a wing back that's bombing forward out wide on the left. He's got options in front of him in terms of strikers making runs. We play people don't realise we play way more rigid compared to some of these teams that we're looking at. Their exciting players thinking, oh wow, I'd love to see him at Chelsea. These are the type of realities we really got to think about. And I'm just thinking, Could a Lamar really adapt seamlessly? And I want him to be seamless. I don't care if he's 22. If you're spending 80 million or even considering spending that money on a player, you need to have some type of finalized, finished results. You can't be spending 80 million on potential. Is he Mbappe? No, he isn't. He's Lamar. I think it'd be ridiculous, and in a way, it does kind of piss me off too, because, you know, Lamar was like, who was he 2 years ago? No one knew of him. He was at Cannes, had a decent season. Did he light up Ligue 1? Was he known as one of their best players? No, he was just an exciting player that Monaco thought would suit the system they wanted to build. As a team, they were incredible. Now, without some of the proper support around him for this year, he's been good at the start of the season. He's kind of waned off a bit now. I can't imagine why that would interest a club and wanting to splash out 80 million on a guy whose form is coming down a tiny bit. I don't know, especially when he is someone like a Malcolm who's younger and is doing better than him this season for Bordeaux. He will probably be cheaper as well. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. But I wouldn't like to see him come, to be honest. I just think it'd be a waste of money. Okay, what other questions? I'm going to answer 3 more, then I'm going to keep it moving, you guys. Okay, yeah, I'll be streaming for 10 more minutes, so I'll try and cram in as many questions as I can. Okay, Draza, HNEDE, at Blue Lions, do you think we should go after Van Dijk? He was linked with City recently. No, we don't need to go after Van Dijk. I was saying this throughout summer too. We've got Zuma, we've got Christensen. This is what I'm saying. People are lavishing Christensen. He's been fantastic. The reality is, Conte wanted to bring in Van Dijk. Now, if Van Dijk to come in, would Christensen be in the team now? And this is what I'm thinking. You could say Van Dijk, is he a better? Is he a massive upgrade over Christensen? Is it? I mean, other than his aerial presence, would you really say that the 50 or 70 million it would take to bring him in is worth it for that over a Christensen who costs you nothing and will develop, will get stronger, he'll get better in the air, will become a more complete, not even complete, he's already pretty complete, will become an even better player in the next 2 years, and he's younger than him. These are the type of stupid decision makings that I really don't understand, because it's just like, we don't need him. And I make this point about diminishing returns. Once you get to such a high level, it's just like, if you add 1%, so let's say the defense in terms of like, you know, quality and working as a partnership is like, I don't know, 90% out of 100. And then you sign Van Dijk and he adds like another 0.5% on top of that. I mean, that difference is so small that it's intangible. You're not really going to notice it. And I'm thinking if you're spending that type of money for players like that who aren't really going to upgrade the team, but who win a few more balls in the air, is he going to single-handedly stop us ever conceding a goal again? No. Is he going to get us 20 goals? No, he's not going to do that. It makes no sense to me. Maybe if a few more players left, maybe if like 2 defenders left, I don't know. But even then, Zuma, to me, he's been one of the best defenders in the Premier League so far with Christensen. I think the club should, you know, this is where you've got to have some ambition. Stop going for this short-term success all the time. I mean, Van Dijk was a nobody from Holland that moved to Celtic. And then he's been at Southampton ever since. You know, this is what I mean. All these world-class players that we always talk about, they were always nobodies who really just happened to be playing first-team football at a very young age. And they developed by going to smaller teams and then slightly better teams to slightly better teams. Then big clubs sign them at 25, 26. That's how it always works. And I don't know. If you said that Van Dijk was better than Christensen at the same age, he wasn't, because Christensen's on a completely different level. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand this short-term success thing all the time. I think it's a complete waste of money for Van Dijk. Okay, Young King. What do you think of Leon Goretzka? I mean, I like Goretzka. Again, this is another guy. This is what annoys me, because at Chelsea, we produce a lot of young players in our academy where if you had given them that type of game time and development over the years, like the likes of your Goretzkas and Blinkovic-Savic's are getting, and your Rabiot's and players like that, I mean, they'd be as good as them or better, and we would have saved a ton of money. This is what's pissed me off so much about Chelsea. I mean, Boga, he hasn't benefited, for example, going to your shitty Granadas and your Birmingham's where they don't even use them in the right way. He doesn't play in the right system. How is he really going to develop at all? You know, this is a guy that's a centre attacking midfielder playing on the wing where he's like playing like Martial this year, isolated with no one around him. What are you expecting him to do? I don't know. I look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek and I'm just thinking, if you sign a guy that you could say is a year ahead in terms of development, I mean, it's a disservice to Ruben Loftus-Cheek because, I don't know, Goretzka's been in the Schalke first team squad since he was like, what, 16, 17? And he's 22 years old now. So it's taken him 6 years to start showing high, like, you know, like putting in top class performances. That's what it takes for these young guys to show that. And I'm just thinking, I just can't understand why Chelsea didn't tell, let's say, their 5, 6 top youth talents, you're going to be staying with us in the squad. We're going to use you in a few games every year. You'll gradually get more game time. And then hopefully by the time you're 22, 23, you'll be in the first team. You know what I mean? But if your plan is to just send them on loan to random clubs where they're at the mercy of fuckery from the club, you know, a manager getting sacked, a new manager coming in with shit tactics that don't complement you. This is why so many of them struggle. I just think that care behind really harnessing that stuff is annoying, because all these guys that we're linked with, all these young guys that we think are the next big thing, you know, a lot of people don't realise that if our Chelsea youth had the same type of, experience, the same type of care, the same type of first team experience all these guys got, they'd probably be much better players than them. That's the reality. I think Goretzka's doing well now, but I don't know. I think with how Ruben's playing this year, I think I'd just stick with him. But, I mean, who knows? I don't know. I look at Goretzka, I think he suits a 3-man midfield. You know, a lot of these guys we're looking at, they're not playing in midfield twos. They're playing in 3-man midfields. In a midfield two, you've got to be more disciplined. You can't get forward as much as you can. In a midfield 3, you can. I like to see a midfield 3. I think when you've got Kante there, that gives license for 2 guys to make those late runs in the box. And to be honest, you look at Chelsea, most of our midfielders are box-to-box. Baker, Basalic, Van Ginkel. He's got a ridiculous scoring record. Ruben Loftus-Cheek. This is like the stupidity with Chelsea. If you've got so many players that play a certain way, why do you got a first-team system that doesn't use that type of player? You know what I mean? And what the club felt more comfortable spending 40 million on Baka, who isn't anywhere near the finished article. He needs a lot more game time and experience. Probably start judging him when he's 24. He's only 22 years old now. They felt more comfortable spending 40 million on him and giving him the game time to develop over Ruben. And it's like, if you really compared the two, what can you really say Baka's better at? That's what I mean. Do you say he's a better passer or better on the ball? No. You know what? He's better defensively. I mean, what does that even mean? Do you ever see Baka make key tackles? He wins his 50-50 duel. But then Ruben's been doing that this year. This is what I mean about buying smart. I didn't think we bought smart over the summer, if I'm being honest. Okay. Young King D. I think I answers. Okay, let me answer his. Young King Nini, do you think we should use 4-3-2-1 formation like in the 09-10 and get players to suit system? I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, all these things are basically the same in a way. I think a 3-man midfield could be the future, because I think most of our players really complement playing in that type of system and team already. So it makes sense, because if more players can benefit from playing in a formation and system that suits them more, then you're more likely to get better performances from them, you know? Okay, Rokans Ray, why would the board want to pay millions of players when they could use youth? But Conte didn't want to use, so they bought. I mean, yeah, there's one thing that a lot of fans need to really stop thinking. I'm not even saying it's you guys. I mean, we see them on social media, on Twitter or whatever. This idea that the board and owners, in a way, kind of tell the manager who he can use and who he can't use. You know, I mean, I don't know where this comes from, as if like the board are the reason why the manager can't use youth. No, I mean, today, I didn't understand why it was so crazy to think that Hudson-Odoi could have actually offered something in this game. To me, I think it's a disservice, because people, none of you guys, but just a majority of people clearly haven't even seen him kick a ball. You don't know how good he is. And it's just like, he's just being automatically dismissed because of his age. I think, honestly, I think it's a Premier League thing. In any other country, maybe other than Serie A, I don't ever see youth being used against exciting top-class young players, you know. It's not as if you've got Sunderland's academy. You know, Chelsea is like, it's a different level. Sometimes I think if there was a B team structure, I think people would really notice the quality involved behind the players that we do have. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, but if anything, you've got to realise, if we usually got some of the youngest squads in the FA Youth Cup and they're winning, you know, trophies pretty successfully and easily, you know, for constantly winning games in Europe against the European opposition in the youth leagues, surely that's telling you something. I mean, you know, the beating Man United's youth system that used to have Rashford in and stuff like that. Rashford's an England international, got all these crazy endorsement deals. Is he anywhere near the finished player? No, he isn't. I mean, I still don't know if he'll ever end up being a world-class player. He's got a lot in his game that he needs to improve on. But he's in a position now where he's got the marketing team behind, not marketing team, but, you know, he's got that type of power where he can get that type of game time. And it's just like at Chelsea, you know, I don't know. I just see all these academies. I mean, Leroy Sané was another one. There's a famous blog that was actually written a few years ago. I'll find it and I'll put it in the description in this video afterwards. I recommend all you guys read it. It was basically going into, you know, a lot of interesting things in regards to Chelsea and youth development. And they used a video clip, or they used an extract from what the Schalke youth manager, I forgot what his name is on the top of my head. But anyway, when we beat Schalke 4-0 in the, you know, the Youth Champions League, Leroy Sané was playing in that team. We thrashed them 4-0, and the manager, who's a very famous figure in German youth football, you know, back in Germany, he stated that not one of his players could get into the first team at Chelsea, which was our youth team. He said that it's the best performance he's seen. They couldn't cope. We completely outclassed them. This is the youth team with your Christensen, Zayners, Rubens, Musunda, Boga, Solanke, all these guys. And it's just like, other than Christensen, every one of them isn't anywhere near what Sané's doing. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to talk about youth too much, because I think that's like another video in itself, because I'll just keep going on and going on. Okay, Adnan Sardarevic Nini, what would be your perfect January, signing wise? I like to see a left wing back. That's either Baba being given game time, I know Marina wants that to happen, or us signing a left wing back. But here's the thing, I wouldn't want us to just sign anyone for the sake of it. By signing smart, sometimes, you know, if that meant us sacrificing this season because we knew Alexandra will come for next summer, that makes sense. I wouldn't say, you know, we sign a Zappa Costa left wing back, or some plan C because we're just desperate to have someone there. That makes no sense to me. Ideally, if you could bring in Sandro, that's probably my number one target, to be honest. I wouldn't want to see anyone other than Sandro. I'd like to see someone in attack. I think that Pedro and William will definitely be leaving next season. I think, actually, for both of them leaving is probably 50-50, but I think, you know, it's 100% that one of them is definitely going to be leaving. If Mars is like, you know what, Leicester, it's time for me to move on, it's time to duck, I would take Riyad Mahrez in January. Ross Barkley, no. Again, another one of those stupid signings that doesn't improve the team, doesn't add anything. Is Barkley going to improve? No, he isn't. I mean, how would he even improve anyway, playing in this system? He wouldn't. That's the type of signing I don't want to see. Lamar, 80 million for him? No, I don't want to see. Even though he's a good player, you know what? I think if we're going to spend 80 million, I'd like to see a degree of like flair and skill. You know, I want to see a top class player. You know, like if you're sending an Mbappe who's on a different level to Lamar, then I'd understand paying that type of money. But no, I wouldn't want him to come. I think there's Mahrez and Sandro. I think they're the two players I'd take in January. But again, January, it will be interesting because we are linked with a lot of players. I'm going to have more Transfer Daily videos coming out. There's a lot of links. And again, if anything, we know what type of players we're looking into signing. It's going to be interesting. I think Benteke might be one. This is what I mean. I like us to move away from using these types of players, you know. Having them Benteke in the team for what? I don't know. It's just like we had footballers. I mean, for example, Bertrand Traore been amazing for Lyon so far. This guy's a new Griezmann. I've always been saying it. I mean, they look exactly the same in terms of style and how they play. he could have actually added quite a lot to this team and been a great option, even challenging for the first team. Conte, I've found out, in interviews from what Bertrand Traore said, he said that Conte had never spoken to him throughout last season. This is what I mean. People, if you hear people say, oh, the manager sees them in training, he knows when to use them, you know what? You have to tell them to shush, you have to tell them to shut up, because football doesn't work like that. We need to get over this idea that if you work hard enough, you get it. That definitely plays a part, it definitely works, but there's a lot more to it, Sometimes if the manager just doesn't fancy you or just doesn't look at youth, that's it. I mean, does Conte know the good work we were doing at the youth academy before he signed? No. Even when he came during his first season, he was in charge of the Italy national squad, He hadn't seen anyone, even in pre-season. There weren't any guys from the academy there. He'd have no time to see everyone or see anyone. And in a way, I kind of think that Conte just sees youth players in the loan army as being a separate thing. That's the club's money-making scheme. He doesn't care about them. He cares about just getting... the first team, because he's the first team coach, This is what I mean. So I think Chelsea needs to go for a manager that really suits everything they're trying to do instead of one thing they're trying to do, I'm going to ask the final question, CFC videos. CFC videos, you guys, this one guy I definitely recommend you subscribe to. I think with the Chelsea community we have here, it's good to support other Chelsea channels as well. CFC videos brings all the individual highlight clips of players. If you want to see how Mason Mount's doing, you can go on his channel, check that out. He records, the amount of effort he puts in actually is incredible, because there's a lot of players that he has. There's a lot of highlight clips he's producing of players, and it's a shame that the FA in this country are such pricks, and that you're not allowed to use footage. Footage is what's really stopped me from releasing a lot of videos, because it gets demonetized, it gets blocked. I think it'd be even bigger if he was actually allowed to use all of it. But, kudos to him. You guys definitely check him out. I'm going to answer the final question. As I said, if anyone wants any urgent question, send a super chat, But I'll answer one more, then I'm just going to play FIFA or something. Okay. What is a good one to answer? What do you think about Isco? I like him in FIFA. He's in my team. I like him. Okay. Is there one more question I can answer, or is there not? Nini, do you feel like we need to make a big money signing, like a big player that can help us a lot and is a game change, such as Salah, but not Salah? Okay. Well, yeah, we do, because that's how we then obviously improve positions in the team in the first team. It's about improving the player and the standard of the first team, not the options. Okay, I think maybe I might end it on Nash's question, Nini. I know this is controversial, but what about Brendan Rodgers as manager? Very underrated and knows the club. And you know what? I'm going to end it on that question. I think that's probably the most interesting one to end it on. And I'll have to be honest, I think this is what I mean by thinking outside the box. Because here's the thing, in the Premier League, it's the only league where we really, really care a lot about managers' previous history. So let's say, David Moyes, once he had one bad season at United, he was finished. But then when you go to other leagues, one manager can perform badly for, let's say, Valencia. He'll get the Sevilla job, or Luis Enrique. He got the Barcelona job, but what has he really done? At Roma, he was okay with them. Espanyol, he was okay. There's so many examples. In Serie A, this is literally managerial merry-go-round. If one manager flops here, that doesn't mean he's crap and shouldn't be looked at again. But in the Premier League, it's very different, because it's always money first. So this is why they don't think outside the box, and this is why it costs a lot of these teams. But I definitely think Brendan Rodgers could be an option. Now, hear me out. No one say anything closed-minded just yet. Hear me out first. I think there's a few options now. Number one, he is still well respected behind the scenes at the club. I've been told he knows everything inside out. He was part of the youth academy. He worked his way up from within the club. He's like the standard that a lot of the managers, like your Jody Morrises, for example, are looking up to, and your Frank Lampards as well. We've seen other guys like Neil Clement as well actually move on into management. I think Brendan Rodgers is the one that really kick-started that whole thing. He did well at Swansea. Remember when Leon Britton and Joe Allen getting like 1,000 passes? They were in like top 10 for best pass completion rates and most passes attempted in Europe. And they were getting figures close to Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets, which is very impressive as well. Then he goes to Liverpool, and this is where it really works. You could really see that was peak Brendan Rodgers in terms of like, if Brendan Rodgers could have the squad that really suited what he needed to the maximum potential, he had it during that season where he had a young Raheem Sterling, which he introduced to the team, Daniel Sturridge that was playing like a world-class striker, and Luis Suarez, who was doing ridiculous bits in the Premier League. We're very close. Of course, it's still Liverpool, meaning that they don't have the finances to really, let's say, splash out on a defence. That's been Liverpool's biggest issue for how many years now, a defence and a proper midfield. Literally, that front three really took them to another level. And you know what? The season after, when he lost his job, he was very unlucky. Now, you got to realise this. They sell Luis Suarez. Who's the replacement for him? None. Now, they tried to bring in Alexis Sanchez. That can't work. He wanted to bring in Sanchez because Sanchez would literally be a replacement in terms of style for Suarez. They could play the same system. Now, what fucks everything up is that Sturridge gets injured. There's no Suarez, so Rodgers was forced to change the system because they didn't invest enough in the summer. Not necessarily his fault. Liverpool at the time weren't doing very well behind the scenes. Didn't have the finances as well. He was forced to change the system. That's why we were seeing crazy things like Raheem Sterling playing as a wing back, and this is why the results weren't coming in. And this is why he inevitably messed up. But for Celtic, he's doing very well. To go 70 games unbeaten in the league is incredible. Playing great football. Credit to him, because in Europe, even though they get beat a lot, you've got to realise Celtic is like a League One team. It's not even a Premier League standard team. It's not even like, I mean, it could be like mid-table Championship. If they were in the Championship, would they get promoted? Would they, I don't know. I don't think so. The league is very poor in the SPL. So, really, when you see Celtic in the Champions League, it's like watching a League One Championship team performing. So, we can't be too critical with what we're saying, but he approaches the games in the right way with the standard of player that he has. And this is what I mean. I was making these points about your Zidanes, your Luis Enriques, your Peps, your Rijkaards. They didn't have to win a trophy beforehand to get the jobs at bigger clubs than us, you know. Most, I mean, you know, your Klopp's at Dortmund. He was just a manager from a smaller club who took over. The reason why clubs like this go for managers like that isn't because of what they've won. They go for managers that suit the style of the team. For example, Luis Enrique didn't win anything for Espanyol. Roma did nothing. Comes to Barca, wins the Champions League. Pep has only been with the B team. Only with the B team, was good with them. He introduces them. He goes and he gets rid of Ronaldinho, gets rid of Deco in his first year, promotes Iniesta into midfield over them, does a lot of bits, and the club supports him. That's real support. Support doesn't just mean financial support. I think with Brendan Rodgers, with the style of football he plays, with the type of player we have that suits that in Hazard, your Kantes, our defence, he knows that everyone behind the scenes already at the club. He knows youth football. He'll know how to use a top talent. He knows how to improve young players as well. I mean, you know, Raheem Sterling, Kieran Tierney at Celtic as well. I think if he, you know, honestly, I think it would make a lot of sense to bring in someone like that. I think tactically he's pretty decent as well. He just needs a better standard of player to really do justice to his philosophy on football and his system. And I think that would be a very, you know what, that would be my wild card option. And I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him coming, because you know, as I keep saying, I look in all these different countries, how they appoint their managers, the decisions behind appointing a manager, and it's on a different level compared to the Premier League, where they only look at what you've won, and it's just like, that means nothing. In the Premier League, they don't care about how you've won, they just care that you've won something, and I think that's kind of stupid in a way, because football doesn't work like that. But that's going to end. That was a good question to end on. Maybe in the comment section below, you guys can give me some of your thoughts on what you thought about my Brendan Rodgers, obviously, point. Did you think that I was making good points? Do you think I was talking nonsense? Let me know. But my mouth is getting kind of tired now. My throat's dry. I've got some Christmas shopping to do tomorrow. I'm one of those guys that leaves it last minute. Ugh. And I need to get a haircut too. My barber let me down today, so I was already annoyed to travel over there for no reason. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to have words tomorrow. But anyway, you guys, I'm the NEFC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.